everyone, and in this video you will learn how to build and implement a search filter using React.js and Tailwind CSS. So as you can see, I have already set up React.js and Tailwind CSS, and in case you don't know how to do that, you can check out this video which appears in the top right corner. Here I also created some data. Each object has its own ID, then first name and last name. Of course, we could make an API call, but just for the sake of this tutorial, to make everything as simple as possible, I decided to use this hard-coded data. Okay, that's pretty much everything I wanted to tell you. Now let's get started. So let's start by making a layout. For that, I will split my screen so that you will be able to see everything on the screen. So this div will be our container. So let's say that min height will be screen so that it will take the whole screen. Let's make our background color to be a gradient. Let's say that it will be gradient to right. So let's say that it will be from blue 50 to purple 50. So I will save it so you'll be able to see it. So as you can see, now our background color is a bit different. Let's also say that it will be flex. Flex will be column. Items will be center. And let's add some padding. It will be 6 from all sides. And let's say that our font family will be font sans. Now let's wrap this text in h1 tag and add some classes. Let's say that text will be for XL. Font will be bold. Text will be 800. It will be gray 800. Let's add some margin from bottom and some margin from top. So let's save it. As you can see, it is right here. Thanks to these flex styles, it is placed here. And thanks to these styles, its color and its font is like this. Okay, so let's move on. Now let's create a div which will have a query where we will write a query, and based on that we will show the related items. And for that we need to create a state. So let's immediately create it. We need to say query, set query, and for that we will use useState. So make sure you import it, and by default it will be empty. Okay, for this div, let's say that its width will be full, and let's say that max width will be medium, which is 448 pixels. Now let's create an input tag. Type will be text. For placeholder, let's say search by name. So let's save it. Here it is. So let's add some classes so that everything will look good. Let's say that width will be full. Let's add some padding from all sides, which will be 3. Let's add some border. And if we hover over, you can see what styles are applied to this input tag. So let's save it. As you can see, now our input has a border around it, and we also added this padding. Okay, let's keep styling our input tag. Let's say that the color of our border will be gray 200. Let's say that it will be rounded large, which is 8 pixels in this case. So let's save it. As you can see, the color is different, and we also added some border radius. Let's add some shadow. Shadow small. Let's save it. And as you can see, we have some shadow over here. So now on focus, we can say the following. We can say outline will be none, which is by default exists, but here we will say that on focus outline will be none. and then on focus, which means when our input is selected, border will be blue 500. And also let's say that on focus rin will be 1, and let's say that on focus rin will be blue 500. So let's save it and see what we have. So when this input is selected, you can see that it has this blue border. So to make everything smooth, we can add transition. We can say transition all. And we can set a duration. So let's say duration will be 200. So let's save it and try one more time. As you can see, this time it's a bit smooth and looks pretty good. Okay, now we can see that the value of this input will be query, which we defined right here. So let's say value will be our query. And on change, we can say set query e.target.value. So whatever we type here will be set to our query. Okay, I think it's clear at this point. So let's save it. Now we can display our items which are defined in data.js file. So first of all, let's import that file. Okay, and in order to display our items in a beautiful way, we can create one more div right under this div. So let's do it. Let's add some classes to it. Let's say that width will be full and max width will be 6XL, which in this case is 1152 pixels. And let's add some margin from top. It will be 6. Okay, and inside let's create one more div. Let's say that it will be grid, so we will use grid to control the layout of our items. We will say it will be grid. Grid columns will be 1. On mobile screens, grid calls will be 1. Then grid calls on smaller screens will be 2. On medium screens, it will be 3. And then on large screens, the number of columns will be 6. Okay, let's save it. Then inside this div, we can map over this data. So let's do it. So let's say data.map. Let's say item. And here we can create one more div. Each div should have a unique key. And as you know, each item has its own ID. So we can say key will be item.id. Then here we can create a span tag and put here first name and right next to it we can write last name. So I will save it. As you can see, here we have our names. So let's style them. So for this div, which contains this span tag, I will apply the following styles. I will say padding will be 4, background color will be white, it will be rounded, large, shadow, let's say shadow will be medium, and on hover, let's say that shadow will be large. So let's save it. As you can see, here they are. And let's add some gap between them. Let's say gap will be 4. Now it looks better. And on hover, we can see shadow. Okay. So let's say that for transition, let's say transition. and we will specifically target shadow. So the transition of this shadow will be 200. So when we hover over, the transition when this shadow appears will be 200 milliseconds. We specifically target this shadow class, and then let's say flex, items will be center, justify will be center. And let's also say that text will be center. So let's save it. As you can see, we have a beautiful layout of these items. For this span tag, let's apply the following styles. Let's say text will be large, font will be semi-bold, and text will be gray 800. So let's save it. Now they look even better. But now, as you can see, we simply map the data that we already have, but we need to display the filtered data. For that, I can create a new variable called filtered items. So let's say filtered items. So we want to filter our list of names based on what the user types into the search bar. To do this, we need to use filter method, which creates a new array containing only the items that match our condition. So let's do it. We need to say data dot filter, and here we can say, for example, person, and then we can use backsticks because we want to display the data based either on the first name or last name. So we can say person dot first name, and then person dot last name. Then we need to say, we need to make these names to be in one case either in uppercase or in lowercase, but most of the time everyone sets it to lowercase. So let's set it to lowercase 2. Okay, and then we need to use includes function, and here we can say query to lowercase as well. So if what we type in this search bar also exists either in the name or in the last name, then it will be stored in these filtered items. For example, if I write this, you can see that it also exists here and it also exists here. So it means that these items, these filtered items, will have this name and this name. So this is how this function works. The main idea here is this includes function. This includes function checks if an item contains at least some part of our query. So as I have already said, when I type on, you can see that Alice Johnson and David Wilson contain this part of my query. And then when we hook these filtered items in the right place, we will see Alice Johnson and David Wilson, but we will not see Bob Smith or Charlie Brown because their names do not contain this part of my query. Okay, so let's save it. And now we need to take these filtered items and do the following. So we need to remove this data.map. We need to say filtered items.map. And then we need to handle a case where I will type something like this and we will not have an item which will match this query. And in that case, we should show no results found. So we should show a text which says that no results were found. Okay, so to do all of that correctly, we need to do the following. Here, right under this div, we need to say filtered items dot length greater than 0. If it is true, then we need to take this div and put it here. But if filtered items dot length isn't greater than 0, then in that case, we can create a div and say no results found, meaning that our query doesn't match any name. Okay, so let's save it. So as you can see, no results found for this query. But if I type something like this, you can see that for this query, we have these people. Okay, so let's try one more time. And as you can see, it looks like everything is working. But if I type something like this, you can see that no results are found. So we can just add some styling for this no results found option. So let's say padding will be 4, text will be center. Let's say text will be gray 500, background color, let's make it to be white. Let's say around it, it will be large. And let's add some shadow, it will be medium. So let's save it. As you can see, our styles are applied. So that's it, guys. If you find this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.